Welcome to the Sensei Playbook, the ultimate how-to podcast for growing and amplifying your brand within the digital world's 3-second landscape. Join Bill Courtwright and Chris Snellgrove as they discuss the right tools and strategies for building the best online marketing strategy for your business. Tune into leading business leaders who share information and impart inspiration on providing smooth customer experience and successfully scaling your venture. This is your chance to achieve rapid growth in the highly competitive online market. Let's get this episode started with your hosts, Bill and Chris.
Hello, friends. It is Bill and Chris back again for this week's episode of the Sensei Playbook podcast, marketing strategy to do less and make more. We have a very interesting guest today in the spirit of entrepreneurialism and goal setting and story and everything that you would need to bridge the gap between where you are and where you ultimately want to be. We have an outstanding individual who is an absolute leader in the space of marketing and print. And he's also a very close friend of Reputation Sensei and Digital Media Nation. And we just could not wait to bring him on one of our episodes. So we reserved it to one of the inaugural episodes of 2023 for the goal setters, the dreamers, those aspiring to do and have their best year yet. So this is an outstanding episode. You're going to have notes ready, I'm sure, because this one is going to be a difference maker. Chris Snellgrove will be introducing our guest today, Mr. John Barber. Chris.
Yes, John Barber, we met back at, BNI about 4 or 5 years ago now. And, John and I are very similar in the sense that we're driven. We love to talk business, strategy, marketing, we instantly hit it off and, did some business together and instantly became friends. So we've shared, personal time as well as professional time together. And, whenever I'm, thinking about a new strategy for my business, John is a guy that I go to as a trusted advisor. So, John is one of my, is part of my think tank, and really appreciate his input and look at him as a mentor. So, John, tell us a little bit about, what the audience should know about John Barber.
Well, first of all, Bill, it's great seeing you. Chris, great seeing you. We're here in another new year. And, I think for the audience out there and for the three of us, here on this podcast, it's exciting to get into a new year, think about new opportunities with new friends and new potential clients. And to me, I'm just always excited, to get going in the new year. One of the things that I do, usually at the end of December every year, is I sit down, I have some quiet time. You never know where it's going to be, but there's usually a coffee and a little Bailey's inside of that coffee for me early morning. And I think about the next 12 months coming up. And I write down personal goals, family goals, relational goals with, my wife, my son, my hobbies. But I also sit down, I spend a lot of time thinking about the people that mean the most to me in business, which are basically, and I appreciate the intro, Chris. I've shared a lot of things with you and you've helped me in my business too, which I'm sure we'll get into today, over the last 4 or 5 years. But I really think about my employees, my clients, and my supplier partners. And I write down very specific goals. And then typically January 2nd, 3rd, 4th whenever we open up my SpeedPro studio, I share that with my employees. So primarily what I'm doing today is I own a number of small businesses, but really what we're going to talk about today is SpeedPro Imaging, SpeedPro of Norcross. It's a large format print shop. I've been a partner here for almost 8 years. I've been the sole owner for the last 3 years. And I'm sure we're going to kind of unpackage that a little bit today.
Yep, exactly. So I guess tell us what attracted you to your current business? I know you own many different businesses, but this is one that you focused on. And what attracted you to SpeedPro?
Great question, Chris. I had retired the first time, and I say this very humbly, at 39. I was bored to death. My DNA didn't allow for it. I love the thrill of being a servitude leader and serving people, serving clients, employees, and maybe even putting a little bit in my pocket along the way too. Then I retired again at 50 years old, and in my early 50s, I was really looking to not be on airplanes, traveling around the world. I've been in 54 countries. Been pretty blessed. I've done deals on multiple continents from a business standpoint. And I was really searching for something that was more in the local community. And I interviewed a number of other franchise brands. I had been in franchising in my third career, selling area development agreements and deals in other countries for a number of brands. I won't shamelessly plug them today, but primarily in the food service and hospitality industry. To answer your question specifically, I gave the franchise brokers who were calling me thinking Barber will be an easy sell. We're gonna get him in a franchise. And I looked at a lot of them, but here's what I told them. And I stuck to my guns on this decision. I said, give me a business that's scalable with one location, as few employees as possible. I can scale that location with technology. It's a B2B, play, business to business, not business to consumer. I do a little bit of consumer work. I help people, their churches and their graduations, but consumers are fickle. And I want to build lifelong relationships with customers and business that value what I do, whatever my past has been. I want lifelong partnerships. Chris, you and I are heading that direction. Bill, I've known you for a bit now too. And to me, those relationships are more important than money. And the last part of that criteria, if I had a business in the Atlanta metro, because I've been traveling all over, it had to be less than 45 minutes from my home to that location, because I really valued my personal balance. I lived in LA back in the 80s, driving 2.5 hours to an office one way. If it rained, it was 3.5 to get home. So there was a little bit of let's have some well-rounded components in there, but those are the main criteria. And I would suggest to anybody looking to either do a franchise or look at a business that maybe they're going to buy, set your criteria, be very specific about it. Talk about it with the people closest to you, including a spouse or your family, because whatever you do is going to impact them also. I settled on SpeedPro, and I'm really glad that I did. It met every one of the criteria I just mentioned.
Hey, that is awesome, John. I really appreciate everything you just said. And you know what? To kind of segue into the next question, it's been said, specifically in today's business community, it's not about the products or services that we sell or provide, but rather the stories we tell. And as marketers, fellow marketers, you at SpeedPro and Chris and I over here at Digital Media Nation Reputation Sensei, we're often tasked with telling the stories of our clients. As a 3-time winner in business, which is rare. It's rare to be a winner in business at all, but to be a 3-time winner at a minimum, like you've just laid out for us. What is it about your ability to tell story, whether yours or someone else's, in the medium of print, and every other way that you've gotten into business? What is your edge? What do you tell people to give them the safety and certainty that what you're going to do is going to work for them?
Wow. First of all, there's a lot there. I actually got chills when you mentioned that, Bill, and I appreciate what you just said. I've heard a quote, and I can't claim that it's mine. I heard this recently, and I don't remember where it came from, but we don't do business with companies and brands. We do business with people. People do business with people. And then those people that we do business with represent brands. They represent the ability to market. They represent companies, but it's all about the relationship. And I think for me, sitting here today in the back third of my career, I had 7 companies when Chris and I met. I'm down to technically 4 tax returns I have to file now. Only one business with employees. And I think it really comes down to putting yourself kind of at the very back end of the train. I'm the caboose. Everybody in front of me, starting with my employees first, if they know what they're doing, if they're empowered to make decisions and they're not micromanaged, and of course they're well trained and compensated, then they're going to take care of my customers. And that's where I spend a lot of time once I got the right employees on my team. My employees don't leave me. They did years ago in my informative years, as I was growing up in business. But I've learned that the most important commodity we have in any business isn't the printers that are outside that door, the warehouse back there where we're wrapping vehicles right now. It's the people that execute against those strategies. And so my employees come first. I'm ruthless about the relationship, personal relationship with my clients and my customers. And then third, my supplier partners. I don't call them suppliers, I don't call them vendors. Supplier partners. I can't operate a business, especially the last 2-3 years with the supply chain issues, if the supplier partners couldn't get me the product I need to print on. We call them substrates in the large format industry. So when I think about being a servitude leader, I didn't mention myself in those three constituents, right? I come at the very end. And as a business leader, I think you have to put yourself, in the right place. And I've seen a lot of business owners, they start making money and it's all about them. You know what? It's all about my employees, my clients, and my supplier partners. If there's anything left over at the end of the day, I get it. If there isn't anything, I work harder. So, but let me also tell you this, and this is Reputation Sensei. This is Digital Media Nation. When I get a lead, and I think we're probably going to talk a little bit about social media. It's a very interesting story. I'm super proud of what we've accomplished here at SpeedPro Norcross. And Chris actually helped set this up with me in 2019, 2020 in a number of conversations. When I get a lead online, and I've got a Google business page and I've got a Google ad that supports that, and about 600 pictures of jobs I've done online. When I get a lead that hits my website, because it hits the Google landing page, SpeedPro Norcross, and they send in their info. I just had one yesterday. I responded in 2 minutes. And I don't just respond with an email. I start with a phone call. I could be on the golf course. I could be traveling somewhere. I could be down at my farm. I've got a lot of other hobbies outside of work. I pick up the phone and I call them. And you know what they say? These two things. I've been trying to get somebody to call me back for 3 weeks, and you called me in 2 minutes. I just hit the enter button. And here's my little joke. I say, well, my name is SpeedPro of my company. We are pretty quick, right? It's a little joke. But I always ask them, I say, why did you pick us? And here's what they say. We found you online. I put in a search. You popped up right away. And guess what? I went and looked at your page, and between Listen 360 and Google, you have over 900 5-star reviews. The person I talked to yesterday said, I read 20 reviews. They had your name, and sometimes they mention my name, but they had Kim's name and Andrew's name and Wes's name. I mean, I don't have a salesperson, guys, and I grew my business 268% in the last 36 months. During COVID, during whether we're in a recession or not, during inflation, during supply chain, 267% from January 1st of 2020 to December 31st of 2022. And I don't have a salesperson.
Which is a good segue, which led to you winning a national franchise award. Tell us about that.
Yeah, there are a couple things. First of all, I don't win awards. My team wins them for me. I mean, the truth is I have 8 people in this small business. When I came here, there were 2 people. And, today we have 8. We run lean and mean. Everybody's cross-trained. So my team affords me the opportunity to get on stage and get awards. In 2020 during COVID, we were up 29, almost 30%. And I had no business in April. But that year we were selected and awarded the SpeedPro System-Wide Franchisee of the Year. Beautiful. In 2021, the International Franchise Association claims to have 800,000 individual franchisees like me, not locations, 800,000 people that own a franchise. Okay, you might own 100 locations, you might own 1. I happen to own 1. And in 2021, I was awarded the International Franchise Association of Washington, D.C. Franchisee of the Year. There were approximately 30 people between 2020 and 2021 because they couldn't have a international meeting. I got called to San Diego a year ago in March. My wife and I went down. It was super special. I've been in franchising, met a lot of people. But the reason we got it wasn't because of all the growth and the things on the business side. I think that was probably, your entry in. You had to be relatively successful. It's because we gave back during COVID extensively and used the vehicle called SpeedPro Norcross and donated money. We donated signs. If you saw any of the Heroes Work Here signs, Gwinnett County, it did over 135 approximately signs for 16 cities that we donated and supported that said Heroes Work Here, hospitals, senior assisted homes, municipalities, fire departments, police stations. And that got us a lot of really positive press. Now, the other thing I'm really proud of is I was one of 5 companies at Easter a couple of years ago. We fed 6,000 meals to displaced food service workers in the heart of COVID. We did it with the help of, I was the smallest company. So please, there were 4 other companies, but I partnered with them. We had 85 volunteers, 2 days, a Friday, Saturday. We gave 26,000 meals out to food service workers who'd lost their jobs because of COVID. And quite frankly, guys, I'm going to date myself here. So here we go. I started out as a dishwasher, my first official job after caddying for very successful people. At 15 years old, I was a dishwasher making $1.65 an hour. I've got a really soft spot in my heart for people who have worked in the food service hospitality industry. It's not easy. You don't make a ton of money, but you know what? You got to provide great customer service for clients to come back. So that's a little bit about it. Again, my employees, I mean, they executed. I didn't play a lot of the instruments. I did go out. I will tell you this. I went out and hit the streets. I actually did. I went out and did a lot of cold calls, and the cold calls were not to sell. They were to give away free signs to restaurants saying, we're open, drive-through open, pickup available. They were just generic yellow yard signs like you see political signs and banners. And literally for 2-3 weeks, we just went all over and just printed them and gave them away for free. Never got a penny out of it. But we got recognized for our community service.
As you should. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, there are so many nuggets of wisdom in what John just said the last 5 or 10 minutes. I mean, just in my head, I'm thinking of the earned media, the corporate social responsibility, the worthy cause marketing, the beginning with the end in mind, the agile, community-oriented servant leader. I mean, there's so many awesome things that you touched on in the answer to the last question. Summarize for our audience, because I'm going to want to pull this out as a short, as one of our social media posts. If you could have a conversation with a younger version of yourself, knowing what you know now, having endured what you've endured, learning, growing, experiencing, just living the entrepreneurial life, what would you say to a younger version of yourself to either eliminate, a hardship or shorten the learning curve or grease the skids or lighten the load, which one of our entrepreneurial listeners might be able to take and really put into action right away, first quarter of this year?
Ironically, I speak to students, and I've been asked to actually start a class that I've already written the curriculum for. I won't mention the college in Atlanta. COVID kind of got in the middle of it, but they said, we want you to teach a class on entrepreneurialism. We will pay you. We will call you whatever you want. You can do it once a week. You just tell us. And they're still waiting for me. But I've actually taught and gotten in front of a lot of people. What Chris had mentioned, Business Networking International. I was in a network group, and I found myself 5 years into it, not getting a lot of personal referrals, but getting a huge amount of satisfaction by mentoring and coaching people, in business people, some owners, some employees in their 20s, 30s, and even 40s. And matter of fact, I have a lunch with one of the people from BNI on Monday, and I just talked to 2 of them 2 weeks ago. But here's the thing: when I look back, and a caveat, I was 34 years old running a $1.5 billion division for PepsiCo. I had 3,500 employees across North America. That's part of why at 39, 40, I was able to say, man, I'm taking a little bit of time off. I left New York. I ended up moving to Kansas City. That was about my son getting to know his grandparents. I never knew my grandparents. So when I think back in those real informative years, and I think back to myself, I had some great mentors. And here's the key: listen to the people that have already done it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel ourselves as entrepreneurs, as business people. Chris Snellgrove, that I'm looking at right now, has been a friend of mine. Chris, I think it's been all of 5, probably 6 years since a person named Dave introduced us, right? We know who he is, and I'm grateful to him for this relationship. But Chris paid me a compliment. I bounce ideas off of Chris Snellgrove also, because we all have something to give. And here's the quote: no one of us is as smart as all of us. That goes for a small business like the one I'm running today. That goes for a big corporate environment. Never think you're the smartest person in the room. And this is cliche, but surround yourself with people. Look, in my business, I can't do half of the tasks that the people on my team out to my right can do. I can unplug a printer. I can probably find the on-off button, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here to make sure that the whole process works. But without the people that have the right skill to complement, and me allowing them to step up and take ownership and responsibility. So to back up for your question, Bill, first and foremost, never stop learning. Never stop asking questions of the people that have already found that success in whatever vertical or industry you're in. It could be in your personal life. Look, I played golf today. In the middle of January, I shot the best round of golf. Chris knows this. Best round of golf that I played in 15 years on 18 holes. In the middle of winter, and it's wet and cold in Atlanta right now. So, but I took lessons last year. After not playing golf for 10 years, I went and got somebody smarter and better than me to refine. I had to work golf in here. Sorry, Chris. I play a lot. It's a priority. It's on my list of priorities. It's in the top 3 every year in January. But I went out and I found a great instructor he's my coach. And even though I played competitive golf years ago, went to nationals, all these great, guess what? I'm not 25 or 35 or 45 anymore. So find people in business that have already done it. Listen to them, ask questions, and be quiet and listen. When I'm with a customer, right now, you guys, we're interacting, we're talking, we're trying to get a story out here, and something that might help one of your listeners out there. But when I'm in a first meeting with a client, and here's another, it's the same thing. I go in there and I already have 3, 4, 5, 6 questions that I know I'm going to ask. One of the questions I asked today, I said, why am I here? Why am I in the room? Surely you already have another large format print company. Why am I here? And it puts them on the spot to suddenly start talking. You know what I do? Bam, I shut up. Just like that. They have to talk, and they start telling me, and I'll say, well, wait, you had 5 suppliers? Well, now I'm really wondering, why am I here? Well, ultimately I find out the suppliers took them for granted. Maybe they took price increases. Their responsiveness was really poor, and that's a key in business for success. You have got to have a sense of urgency, whether it's inside of your own company, with your employees, with your clients, whomever. And that brings me right back full circle, 360. Listen, ask questions, and listen. So when I think about myself, I was rocking it. I was crushing it when I was running Pepsi Las Vegas at 28 years old, $100 million market. I thought I was pretty big stuff, but you know what? What I learned along the way is that there's always a lot of people that can help mold you and make you better. You can't do it on your own. And I could list a whole host of people that have helped me throughout my career. And I'm as proud to be able to now help other people at this point in my career. So a young John Barber should have shut up more, asked more questions, listened, and then execute against that. But I will say this. Can you give me another minute on this one?
Yeah,
Phil?
certainly.
Okay.
This is brilliant.
When I was 13, 14, 15 years old, I caddied for rich people, doctors, dentists, lawyers at a country club. I rode my bike, went over there. I was already starting to play golf. I was a pitcher and a third baseman, had a really good arm, was playing baseball. But my dad got me to go. I said, hey, you want to go play golf? I said, no, Dad, it's an old man's sport. So I'll give you $1. You walk 9 holes. At the end of 9 holes, my competitive spirit was chipping and putting. 2 years later, I'm the captain of the golf team. Okay. So now I am caddying for doctors, dentists, and lawyers. They played golf. I'm not going to say what year, because I'm, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They drove awesome sport cars. And when they finished up, their wives or girlfriends were, waiting for them in the bar. And I thought, I want to be like them one day. And at 15 years old, guys, I wanted to be a dentist. It had nothing to do with teeth. It was all about the lifestyle. And so I listened to what those guys bantered about on the golf course, 40 plus years ago. I listened to them talking about business. I listened to them talk about success. And I just was a sponge while I was kicking their ball out to make sure they had a good lie. I'm just kidding. But so it started early for me. I saw something that really motivated me to want to be successful. And the other thing about that word, we all get to define what success is for us. Society doesn't do it. Your boss doesn't do it. Even your parents and your family. we get to define what success is on our walk on this earth for each of us. And it is different for each of us. But I will tell you, when I was 15, I just wanted to be like them. And I worked really, really hard to try and get there. I'm proud to say today I played the best round of golf I have played in a very long time. So my handicap is going down tomorrow. Anyway, I hope that helps somebody out there to think back at their past and think about the people that have helped them at least get to where you are today. Because it takes a lot of people to help somebody really get to the top of their game. But remember, you get to define what your game is, not other people. That's our choice in business, in life, and the walk that we have in this journey on this place called Earth.
Love it. Love it. Your race, your pace. That's what I heard. That was
Absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely. My pace has been pretty quick. Chris knows I like to race cars, and that's one of my hobbies too. So I'm slowing that down a little bit. Haven't crashed too many of them, but slowing it down. But you know what? Life is short. You know what? Make the best of it. Personally, professionally, pick your battles and go win a bunch of them. It's fun when you're winning. It really is.
John, what are you going to do in 2023 that you didn't differently than 2022?
I will tell you this, 2023. So we did some massive projects. A big part of my business, we wrap vehicles. And this is another lesson in perseverance I'm going to share, and I'll try and be brief, guys. I have a customer that I met through private equity friends of mine. Actually, I was getting ready to do an investment in their company, and they introduced me to a large trucking firm. Would have been 2015. I landed the biggest job. I mean, it took me 6 years to land this job, and it all came together last year. It's absurd how successful this little business that I've owned for 8 years just skyrocketed. 69% growth last year. So I will tell you what's different this year is I'm working a little bit harder. I'm still going to play golf. It's on my list, 100 rounds. I think today was the 20th of January. This is my 8th round, and I'm playing again tomorrow. My goal is to play 100 rounds, and I'm going to be ahead of it because I am very metric driven, and we all need to be. If you own a company and you're listening to this, this session out there, Bill and Chris's audience, you need to have strong, metrics that you can measure success. The old adage, what gets measured, gets achieved. I mean, you really have to measure it and then follow up on it. So I'm talking a little bit about golf right here. But the difference is I'm working differently. I am selling again. I have a list that I put together 3 weeks ago, and I didn't have to do this last year. I mean, money was falling out of but business was just rocking. I was turning customers away. And I'm going to segue into social media and SEO, because when I came to this business, we would pick up 10 customers, 120, 130 a year. And I was out selling. In the last 3 years, I've averaged over 300 new customers with no salesperson. I stopped going to network groups. I actually went to an event last night, first one I've been to in probably 9 months. But I am usually using social media and, more importantly, SEO, search engine optimization, as my 24/7 orbiting salesperson on the internet. And what I have found is that people are buying at 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock at night. They're buying at 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock on Sunday, getting ready for Mondays. They are buying at times that we are not open. And sometimes I'll even answer a lead that comes in. So for those of you that are out there, these are crazy times right now, between interest rates climbing, recession, inflation, supply chain. Some people who just flat don't want to work, a diminishing workforce in this country. What I have found is use technology. And I'll tell you, the guy in the bottom here, Chris Snellgrove, he sat down with me in 2019 and 20, and he helped me think about when I said, I think I need to hire a salesperson and get to the next level. I never did it. And by the way, I worked fewer hours last year. In a record year, the second best year of my professional career was last year, 2022. And it really came down to thinking about the tools and how people want to validate your business. So 120, new customers, didn't even have a Google presence back then. 2 years ago, 386 new customers. This is all documented. I've got a fabulous workflow system all the way from CRM all the way to billing. Chris knows because I've sent him some bills along the way, and Bill too. But all kidding aside, we're averaging like 280 to 300 new customers with no salespeople. And I turned away last year an average of 10 leads that I was paying pennies for. Leads I turned away because we were too busy, and I was able to, for the first time in decades, really select the customer base I wanted. Here's what's different. It's a new year. Some of those projects might not kick in. They might start again when the weather gets warmer based upon where we can wrap vehicles, April, May, June, July. They might not do it with diesel prices and all the things that we're facing as consumers. So I'm not going to wait for them to say, yes, we're going to do it, or no. I am out selling again. I have a list, as I started to mention, of 10 targets. I have already called 3 or 4 of them, and I am aggressive and hungry at this point in my career. I'm not going to let the economy decide what my business does. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do end runs around them and put that football, which is my business, in the end zone.
Yeah, that was a question that I was going to have. It looks like we may be moving into a recession, and if we do, how do you plan on not participating?
I love this question. 2009, January, I was in a private equity company. We were doing about $150 million. I was the interim CEO at the time. I turned down the job for a number of personal reasons, but I was still the kind of number 2 guy, and private equity brought in a CEO. Before they brought him in, I got in front of the company. January of 2009. Think about what happened September 2008. And the hour and a half meeting to about 100 people. Here was the bottom line. I said, in strong economic times or in a recession like we were in January 2009, somebody always wins. What do you want to look back at a year or 2 years from now? When you look back at what we're going to do in 2009, do you want to look back and say, we just let the economy dictate? Oh, well, everybody's down 10%. So if we're only down 9, I guess that's good. We tripled our EBITDA on that company in 2009. We sold the company in March 2010 for over $100 million. There's always going to be a winner. And that's my point. Football's coming up. We've got, games, this weekend and the Super Bowl. Are you just going to let the other team's record, make you complacent? Listen, if the economy's down 10%, I'm going to be something north of positive, okay? Unless it was a moon and stars year for me in 2022. But the whole point is I'm out selling again. I mean, different type of sale. I'm not pounding, the pavement and stuff. I am calling relationships. I am calling referrals. I'm calling people I know that can say, hey, and you know what? At the end of the day, all I have to do is say, hey, I got 900 plus 5-star reviews as validation on Google and on Listen 360. It's the business you guys are in. It's a business Chris Snellgrove helped me think about. And I put together in March of 2020. I got lucky. It was perfect timing to have a 24/7, marketing tool out there, right? But I'm telling you, any of you out there that own a business, or if you're in a company and you work for somebody else, really think about how you can increase your exposure in this next year if we're in a recession, because somebody's always buying something and somebody is always selling something. And you want to be on either, the front end of that selling something, or you want people to be buying what you have available, whatever your product is. I do custom graphics. I do walls, windows, vehicles. People call me up out of the blue, and I always say, why me? I went on social media. I went on Google, and I looked at your reviews, and I want to work with you. And guess what? Sometimes their price goes up when they get that excited with me. But I'm telling you, this is the marketing strategy that I have in place. I will not increase my headcount. I am already kind of looking at cutting my inventories this year versus a year ago. Supply chain is flexed up. I'm a pretty big buyer. My distributors want me. So there's a number of strategies, and I'll try and be brief for the audience. Number one, I'm selling. I am going out looking for specific new customers, targets by name. Number two, I increased my social media presence and my SEO. I bumped up my Google ad spend, which supports my Google business page. If you don't know what I'm talking about, these guys can help you with it, because Chris really helped me learn a lot about this 4 years ago. It's the reason I don't have a professional salesperson that I'm having to pay. I'm a little bit of one, but listen, I play a lot of golf, guys, okay? And it's a pretty cool place to be. But that being said, I am out selling. Number three, I'm watching my inventory. I'm watching my cost of goods. I'm watching my pricing. Number four, I am looking at price increases as they're passed on to me. Typically, my price increase is less to my customers, especially my loyal customers. There's been times I haven't taken price increases and I've gotten one because I want to reward and retain those great customers. But I will tell you this also, 2 key metrics in my company: order accuracy, on-time delivery. You can take those metrics in any business, any vertical. I've been in a lot of different industries over my, 40-year career, really 40 years. You can take those 2 key metrics into any business. If you deliver on time what the customer wants and you deliver to their spec, order accuracy, whatever those metrics are in your business, I am telling you, you do that at a fair price. And I tell people that call me, first time conversational lead, I said, look, here's why you want to work with us. I'm not selling you, but I'm telling you why I've got 900 5-star reviews. We do what our customers want, which is, order accuracy to spec, and we do it on time 99.9% of the time at a fair price. I'm not the cheapest. I'm also not the most expensive. But if you value those 2 metrics, you'll be willing to pay what my prices are. And I'm all about customers for life. So that last little piece of the segment, any industry, I've proven that out over several decades in business. And all of you listening out there, write those 2 down, if nothing else, because it works in every single industry. One other quick thing. There's only 2 places you get growth from in the business. It's either new business or existing business. It's organic through your existing customer base, or it's going out and hitting the pavement. Right now, I'm doing both. I'm getting ready to communicate to my existing base and some of the products I think they want, and we want to sell to them this year. But I'm really ramping up my time going out doing new business development. But if you think about it in the simplest terms, hundreds of years, where does business come from? It's either new or it's existing, and that's it. And the cost of existing business, organic business growth, is almost always less costly on a dollar basis than it is to go out and prospect and bring on and onboard a new client. You got to have both if you want to be really successful. But there are times when you can farm and there's times where you can hunt. And last year I was doing more farming. Guess what? I'm back to being a hunter. So I hope that helps somebody out there.
And it sounds like you've streamlined your cost on new customer acquisition by creating a sales force with your online presence. I mean, that's pretty cool.
You know what, Chris, in 2020, during the heart of COVID, and I don't know how many print shops like mine. First of all, I don't view a single print shop out there as a competitor. I have equipment that many of them don't have. I've invested in infrastructure. I put $400,000 in a small business in August of 2020 into my studio. Chris, you've seen what I've done. I remodeled my studio in the middle of COVID. I do about $500,000 with other print shops, and then they just take my manufacturing and product and they broker it out and mark it up to, 20, 30%. I don't care. Guess what? That $500,000, 50, 70, 80 wholesalers, brokers, they're my sales force. Okay. And I discount a margin so that they can be, competitive out there. But in 2020, Google ad, these are real numbers now. These, I still don't believe them. I started the Google ad program in March of 2020, after you and I had talked. And I got some other support and help. And he actually helped me set some of that up if you go back a few years ago. So I appreciate Chris Snellgrove, Digital Media Nation, and a Reputation Sensei, right? So got this set up 10 months. My total ad spend was $982 on pay-per-click on Google ad. I picked up 76 documented customers that drove $141,000 of new business for $952. Now, I will tell you, for a month or so, I was Googling all my competitors, other print shops, call them competitors, and seeing who would come up in first position. I was looking at keywords. I was starting to understand Google Analytics. I really immersed myself at that point for about 2 months, and every Wednesday night and weekends, I just Google car wraps, step and repeat banners, event, and I would look, and then I'd look at the performance of my new Google page and go, man, I don't have the right stuff. Here's what I'm going to suggest to the viewers out there. This is a shameless plug, but it's going to be generic. When I said earlier that no one of us is as smart as all of us, when it comes to marketing and branding, and especially marketing in social channels, search engine optimization, find a company or people that are experts. I did a lot of it on my own. I had help from 3 people, including Chris Snellgrove. But I ended up doing a lot of it on my own because I have intellectual curiosity. To me, it was just another challenge at this stage in my career. I'm going to go figure it out. And so, today I have 1,000 more customers than I had 3 years ago. I have no salesperson, and my cost of sale on $141,000 was a bunch of hours of my time doing research and, intellectual curiosity. But it's $952 of ad spend. That's crazy. I've been in a lot of big businesses, Procter & Gamble and PepsiCo and private equity and big brands people have heard of in the restaurant industry. Guess what? That it blew me away. So in 2021, I started doing webinars for print companies on how to do your social media and, to a point, and they just wanted to hear the story, and it was unbelievable. So I would suggest get professionals. I spent a lot of time those first 2 months setting stuff up myself, and I made mistakes, and I had to go back in and fix them. Get somebody that can fast track you there. It's worth the money, even if it's just a 6-month or 9-month engagement. Spend the money with professionals like the guys I'm talking to today, because they did help me, and I was really grateful. But anyway, get the professionals to help. Get there faster. But that's what I'm doing. That's sorry, everybody. I'm excited about 2023 because I know there's always going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And I'll tell you what, a year from now, my team and I, we've already talked about it. I mean, we are going to come out ahead. We have set our measures, our goals, and everybody knows what we need to do. And now we just have to go execute on it, and it will come. But I will tell you this, I'm selling again. I mean, I'm not going to wait around for a recession to kick me in the butt. I'm out there trying to, build a business early. Okay. So hope that helps.
You always bring the energy, buddy. Always bring the energy.
The energy, the wisdom, the information, inspiration, and influence, the movers and shakers growing business today absolutely need. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been amazing. You could have volumes of notes based on what John has so graciously shared on his wisdom and his experience and his planning. And the one thing I took from the adversity equation is that the greater the adversity, the greater the opportunity. It's temperature and pressure. It's diamonds and steel. There's the leaning of the herd. The 3 of us on this call have heard of the impending recession. We've chosen not to participate, but the bottom line is, everything that you need to bridge the gap between where you were last year and where you want to be next year was so cleverly articulated by John. I can't thank you enough. This has been an outstanding 30 or 45 minutes. And I just want to thank you, John, for joining us. I want to thank our audience. If this information was valuable to you, please don't keep us a secret. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends. We'll continue to bring you this outstanding content on a regular basis because this is how we learn. This is how we grow. And we want to make sure that you reach, grow, and live your greatest life this year. So once again, on behalf of Chris Snellgrove and John Barber, I'm Bill Courtright signing off this edition of the Sensei Playbook podcast. Take care.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
That's all for this episode of the Sensei Playbook. May these strategies help you build a powerful business roadmap and dominate the online marketplace right now. Be sure not to miss another episode jam-packed with valuable advice from our marketing martial artists, Bill and Chris, by subscribing to the podcast at podcast.reputationsensei.com. Don't forget to share with your friends and fellow entrepreneurs who also aspire for massive business success. Thank you for listening. Until next time.